In order to determine the surface area of a function, we use this formula that involves a double integral over that domain region. And in this video, we're going to derive this formula. And we'll say that domain region goes from a to b in the direction of x, and from c to d in the direction of y. We'll look at the ith subinterval in the direction of x, whose width is delta x, and the jth subinterval in the direction of y, whose width is delta y. And these give us what we'll call the Rijth rectangle in the domain. So let's take a point in this Rijth rectangle and fly it up to the surface. And the region on the surface above this rectangle has a little tiny surface area. We'll call the point on the surface Pij, and let's let Sij be equal to the surface area of that small portion. Let's consider the small portion of the tangent plane that is also above the Rij rectangle in the floor, and let's let delta Tij equal the area of this little tiny parallelogram. And as these rectangles get infinitely small, the area of this parallelogram becomes a close approximation for the surface area above that region. So let's take a close look at the area of this parallelogram. This corner of our parallelogram was situated at x sub I, y sub j, and the function evaluated at x sub I, y sub j. And again, we're looking at delta Tij, which is the area of this parallelogram. And basically, we're going to want to come up with a formula for determining this area, and then we'll add up infinitely many of them in order to determine the area of the entire surface. Now, to do that, we'll start by looking at this side of the parallelogram. We can think about the slope of this line as rise over run, where the rise is a change in the direction of z and the run is a change in the direction of y. Now, we are going to have multiple changes in the direction of z, so let's put as a subscript that this is the change in z that is due to that small change in y. And we want to think about this as a vector. Let's call it vector b. Let's also think about the vector that travels along this side of that parallelogram. We'll call this one vector a. And when we talk about the slope of this line, that slope is going to be a rise value, which is a change in the direction of z, in ratio to a change in the direction of x. This change in the direction of z is the vertical change that we got due to a small change in x, and here is that small change in x. So if we come back up here to our concept drawing, we see that this line, which is in the direction of our vector A, is directly above our Rij rectangle, and this side is going to be parallel to the x-axis. And similarly, this side of the parallelogram is directly above this side of our Rij rectangle, which means that it is parallel to the y-axis. So when we zoom back in here to our parallelogram, we'll notice that the vector A is parallel to the x-axis and vector B is parallel to the y-axis. And this now enables me to write my A vector as a position vector where we have a small change in the direction of x, no change in the direction of y because we're parallel to the x-axis, and a small change in the direction of z that was due to the change in x. And that b vector can similarly be written as a position vector where there's no change in x because we're parallel to the y-axis, but there is a change in y and there's also a change in z. This is the change in z due to that small change in y. Now let's recall we can talk about the slope of this line as rise over run, but we can also talk about that as being a partial derivative. So looking at this first vector, we can describe that slope as a partial derivative. It's the first partial of the function with respect to y because the x is being held constant. That's evaluated at our domain point, which was x sub I, y sub j. And this partial derivative is going to be the same as the delta z due to a small change in y divided by that change in y, again, rise over run. And if we multiply both sides by delta y, we'll see this small change in z due to that change in y can be rewritten as that first partial with respect to y evaluated at x sub I, y sub j times delta y. And similarly, we have two ways of discussing the slope of this line. One is that it's a first partial with respect to x. X is changing, y is being held constant, evaluated at that domain element, x sub I, y sub j. Another is rise over run. The rise is the change in z due to that small change in x, and the run is the change in x itself. We can solve for delta z sub x by multiplying both sides of this thing by delta x, so we get this partial derivative times delta x. Now we're going to use these new representations for the small changes in z and substitute them into those position vectors. So this enables me to rewrite vector A as being delta x, 0, and then instead of delta z sub x, we'll sub in this formula. But in order to make that more compact, we'll just call it first partial with respect to x times delta x. And similarly, we can rewrite vector B as 0 delta y, and we'll substitute in for delta z sub y this formula, again simplifying that notation a little bit, calling it the first partial with respect to y, delta y. Now let's recall, we can calculate the area of a parallelogram by evaluating the magnitude of the cross products of those two vectors a and b. So that's our next step, is to cross product these two vectors and then determine its magnitude. So vector A cross vector B can be evaluated by looking at the theoretical determinant where we have delta x, 0, and then first partial with respect to x times delta x, 0 delta y, and then first partial with respect to y times delta y. Now this yields vector I multiplied by 0 times first partial respect y delta y, which just yields 0, minus this product, which is going to give us partial respect x delta y. And then from that we subtract the j vector multiplied by delta x times f sub y delta y. So let's write that fy delta x delta y. And then from that we subtract 0 times this quantity, which is just going to be 0. And then we add the k vector times delta x times delta y minus the product of 0 times 0, which is 0. And let's clean up this cross product and write it as a position vector. So we have partial f respect x delta y, that's negative. Distribute in this negative and we get negative partial f respect y delta x delta y. And then the z component is just delta x delta y. Now let's factor out this delta x delta y factor that's common to all three of those components. And that scalar quantity is then going to be multiplied by the opposite first partial respect x, opposite first partial respect y, and then 1 is the remaining z component. And now the area of that little tiny rectangle, which we were calling delta Tij, is going to be the magnitude of this cross product vector. So we'll say delta Tij is equal to this delta x delta y scalar multiple that then can be multiplied by the magnitude of our remaining vector, which would be the square of each of those components added together. And of course we no longer need these negatives inside here. So now each of these little tiny areas can be used as an approximation for its corresponding surface area. And so we can add up infinitely many of these to get the surface area for the entire domain region, which will be first partial respect x of the surface, quantity squared, added to first partial respect y of the surface, quantity squared, plus 1, and dx dy is representing the little tiny rectangle's area, and in our integrand that will become dA. And this is the formula that we were trying to derive.